Well, it seems as though the explosions that were heard closer to the city centre may have been the sound of the Ukrainian air defences working. They're saying that two buildings in Kyiv were hit. One of them you can see behind me. It's actually about 8.5 kilometres from the city centre, though, out to the west, so not exactly the centre of Kyiv. And then there is another suburb of Kyiv just outside the city limits that was hit this morning. Thankfully, though, the authorities are saying there are no casualties. This building you can see behind me is not a residential building, it's some kind of administrative building. It's also not an element of the electricity infrastructure, as you can probably tell. Around me, though, there are lots of residential buildings which have quite clearly had their windows blown out, and there are people already hard at work putting the cellophane and other, thicker plastic or cardboard onto the windows. It's quite an urgent matter, really, considering how cold it is, to get the windows repaired. The Ukrainian authorities are saying that in Kyiv and its region, some 13 drones were shot down, Iranian-made drones. This has slightly, sadly for the Ukrainians, put paid to speculation that the drones weren't able to fly in such temperatures. Unfortunately, clearly they are, but clearly also the majority of them are being intercepted and shot down by the Ukrainian air defences. This morning there were no emergency sudden power cuts reported in Kyiv and the region. There are still constantly power cuts every day, but they're scheduled for the repairs to take place. It doesn't seem as though there was any hit this morning that caused any additional significant damage to the electricity infrastructure.
Yeah, so as you say, a little bit out of the centre then, Gulliver, in the end. But as we can see from behind you, there's just how close it is to residential buildings. I mean, what kind of effect do you think that has on people? I mean, obviously people are scared, but does it make them even more resilient, would you say, or what?
Well, generally the spirit in Ukraine is very much one of resistance, defiance and anger. But of course, all of these alerts are highly, they make people very anxious. Actually, I was noticing it again as I was driving out here on the way here. There are advertisements on the radio for all kinds of anti-anxiety kind of medication. Not only advertisements, but also very, very often in Ukrainian media, there's a great deal of discussion about how to deal with the anxiety, and also, what to do when you're in your apartment, the sirens go off in the morning. Obviously, it's not very likely that your apartment is going to be targeted, but the official instructions are to take shelter. Do you do that? Do you go down to a basement, or do you just go maybe away from the windows? How to react? All of these kinds of things mean that, life in all Ukrainian cities where these sirens are going off is very, it's an additional stress for everyone who lives here, for sure.